Hi there, I'm Emerald Star, and welcome back to the channel. When I last spoke about Glee, I touched on Glee's Season 4 opener, The New Rachel. I stated that, while I do have gripes with the episode, I still go back to it because there's a lot to like about it. Even if I don't think The New Rachel functions well enough, it's still decent on the surface, and can still be enjoyed. I can't say the same for Season 4's finale. Glee's fourth season came to a close in May of 2013 with the episode All or Nothing. I won't say I didn't enjoy anything in this finale, but rather it left me feeling underwhelmed. Nothing in this finale screamed big finish. It didn't feel like it was ending on a strong note like a finale should. Instead, it just felt like another episode of the show. And if it were just that, I'd call this episode very middling and confused. Admittedly, I've been dreading the discussion of this episode, mostly because I don't have many fond memories of it. There's just so much this episode does wrong that it managed to encapsulate the issues I have with Season 4 as a whole. And the last time I attempted to make a script for this, which was last year, I was doing it from a place of rage. However, after some time away, and a good rewatch, let's just say I'm in a much better headspace to continue discussing not just this finale, but also the rest of the show. With all of that being said, join me as I share my thoughts on Glee's Season 4 finale and why I found it very underwhelming. Let's jump right in, shall we? Section 1. Too many plots. Glee's Season 4 finale, titled All or Nothing, has to do with the new direction set to perform at regionals after bouncing back from a technicality win post-sectionals. During this episode, we have Brittany burning bridges due to an early college admission, Ryder refusing to perform until he gets answers as to who's been catfishing him, and Blaine preparing his eventual proposal to Kurt. The club ends up winning regionals and are set to reach nationals again. Oh, right, Will and Emma get married post-regionals win, and somehow Rachel got one scene in this episode as well. If you were confused by how much was happening in this episode, then worry not, I get it, I feel it too. One of All or Nothing's biggest issues stems from the fact that 5 different plot threads were stuffed into this goddamn episode. And of the 5 plots, only one of them gets a solid conclusion of some sort. The other plots are either left hanging for Season 5, or just get swept under the rug for good. In my opinion, these plots either needed more time to cook, or should have been resolved sooner rather than later. Allow me to explain what I mean by dissecting 4 of those plots in question. We'll start with Brittany's college plot. And worry not, non-Glee viewers, I'll explain each plot so you're not left in the dark. I got you, fam. Brittany's plot revolves around her being admitted into MIT University, and this is due to random numbers she wrote on a paper, in crayon, by the way, being seen as some sort of scientific breakthrough. She lands early admission into the college as a result. Because of this, Homegirl decides to go on a rampage and burn any and all bridges tethered to her time in high school. This includes ditching the club, quitting the cheer squad, and breaking up with her boyfriend over text. Because that's totally the best way to call things off with someone. So, why do I hate this plot? Well, for starters, when the fuck did we start treating Brittany like a goddamn genius? No, seriously, she was held back? For this? This is what y'all came up with? I'm supposed to believe that the same woman who said, and I quote, "Dolphins are just gay sharks," is suddenly seen as a brilliant mind? Even back in 2013 when I first watched this, I was dumbfounded by this decision. I get it though. Not the plot, but rather the reason for the sudden shift. At the time, Heather Morris, who plays Brittany, was pregnant with her first kid and needed time off, and this was essentially her send-off. And to Heather's credit, she acted her ass off in this episode. Brittany's dialogue was still funny as always, and shout out to her heartfelt speech to the club near the end of the episode. It was one of the best parts of an otherwise convoluted plot. Next up is Blaine's proposal plans with Kurt. Let me just start off by saying that I hated Kurt and Blaine as a pair this season. They stopped being my favorite couple sometime during Season 3. Honestly, breaking them up was needed. Kurt was being dragged down by Blaine and got a chance to grow as a person in New York. Even Blaine needed some time on his own too. I do question some of the things he did this season, but that's a video for another day. Throughout the season, however, fate, and writing choices, slowly brought the pair back together. They're not officially back together yet in the finale, just so we're clear. At this point, Blaine is of the belief that he will get back with Kurt and is actively in search of the perfect engagement ring. This plot, unfortunately, suffers from been there, done that syndrome. Rachel and Finn tried this shit in Season 3, and look where that got them. It's not just that. The introduction of Jan and Liz, an older lesbian couple, to help the fellas along felt so hollow. It was nice to see older queer folks portrayed in the show, that's for sure, because we don't get the opportunity to see that often. But in the context of this plot, it's clear that they were meant for more, but were only seen in this episode. Even then, their advice only encouraged Blaine to consider proposing. But it doesn't even matter, because it's left on a big ol' cliffhanger. Yup, Season 4's finale literally ended with Blaine hiding the ring behind his back, teasing what's to come of Season 5. Great, fantastic, terrific. Drag this on, why don't you? Then we had Rachel's one scene the entire episode. No joke, Rachel only got one scene this episode, and it was her callback performance. And it was beautiful. She ate this performance up. No notes. But it's all we got from her this episode. And the only reason I consider it a plot is because we've been following Rachel's journey to this very moment for half of the season. I find it so baffling that Rachel didn't get much time to do anything except sing her ass off. I refer back to my thoughts on the New York plots in the Season 4 opener video. I prefer to see what's going on with Rachel and the others in New York instead of what's happening in Lima. But alas, we just got a small tease of what's to come for Season 5. We'll touch on that next time. And finally, I'd like to briefly unpack Will and Emma's intimate wedding subplot. Will and Emma were initially set to get married in the Valentine's Day episode. Sadly, Emma got overwhelmed and left the wedding, leaving the couple's next steps in limbo for a little bit. Eventually, they sorted things out and decided to have a small wedding around the people they love, a group of teens and newly minted young adults. Okay. Alright, cool. Who the hell thought this was a good idea? No, seriously, who thought this was a good idea? Please, tell me. I'm glad they finally got married, but it felt so rushed. Was this really the time to do it? You chose now to execute this wedding? What if y'all fucking lost regionals? Would you still do it? And not only that, can we please unpack why Will and Emma don't have adult friends? No, seriously, that part is very off-putting. The way Emma speaks about being surrounded by the ones they love, that's fine and good, as the club did play a part in this union. But if that's all you got, then pardon me for being concerned. Luckily, this plot didn't take up too much time in the episode. It was as quick as the wedding itself. And honestly, that's for the best. We'll chat about the fifth and final plot in its own section. Trust me, you'll understand why when we get there. Before we get to that, I'd like to touch on another aspect of the finale that I felt also played a role in this underwhelming mess. Let's talk about regionals. Section 2. A disappointing regionals. Glee's first season ended off with the club's performance at regionals. Although they lost, the episode as a whole captured the essence of what made a satisfying finale. After a season of ongoing plot threads, everything culminated in solid resolutions, alongside a damn good roster of songs to help keep the finale energy. Journey to Regionals is still one of my favorite finales, because it made you feel everything, and managed to wrap things up near perfectly. It's by no means a perfect finale, but man does it still hold up really well. Compare that to Season 4's finale, which also ends on a regional performance, and you've got a middling mess placed before you. I hate to say this, I really do, but this had to be one of the least interesting competitions Glee has had. And that's saying something, because their performances are usually always on point. Out of the 4 regional competitions, this is definitely in dead last. It was low stakes, provided no real highlights, and never once felt like anything mattered. Even the song choices, while great as per usual, felt underwhelming in the context of being performed for said competition. Season 4 regionals felt very unearned, and that's likely because, technically speaking, it was unearned. Earlier in Season 4, the club lost sectionals for the first time, but thanks to a technicality involving their opponents cheating, they got a second chance to perform at regionals. The lead up to this competition wasn't exactly exciting or noteworthy either. It felt very hollow and low stakes. I knew they were gonna win. You don't lose and then suddenly get another chance to try again, just to lose again, all in one season. That's just a bit repetitive. But where it all falls flat are the writers not giving much of a fuck on how to make it feel like this was an important competition to win. It never felt that way at all as the season carried on. None of the characters felt like they grew or had much importance, unless they were tethered to a plot in said episode. It all just felt like nothing came of these characters, even though we've seen them all season. We've seen their growth and what they've been through. And yet, that's not very reflective in the finale, where it should have been shown the most. No, season 1's finale didn't have every character in the club get some kind of resolution, but the writers made us feel like they came a long way, as a unit anyway. You could tell that, despite the odds stacked against them, the club was going to do their best and come out of this as better people no matter what. I didn't get those vibes from any of the club members at all in this finale. A side note, fuck y'all for leaving Sugar and Joe out of the show for several episodes, and then suddenly have them appear in this finale. Those two should have been main characters with actual storylines ages ago, and to then completely rid of them in season 5 altogether? Severe bag fumble, guys. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about season 4 regionals. It was weak and underwhelming, but it's not the worst part of the finale. No, folks. That award goes to none other than that 5th and final plot point I left alone until now, the catfish plot. It's time to finally unpack this awful plot thread. Section 3. The catfish of it all. Oh, boy. Full disclaimer, I hate this plot. I've been dying to discuss this plot ever since it first appeared on the show over 11 years ago. This is many years in the making, and I'm just gonna flat out say it. I might get a little mean here. I'll try to keep it cool as best as I can, but I genuinely hate this plot, and we'll be tearing it to shreds accordingly. With all that said, let's start with some context. In late 2012, MTV released a show called CATFISH. Created by Neve Schulman, the show follows said creator as he helps folks figure out who the identity of the person they've been speaking to online. Oftentimes, the person being searched for may be a stolen identity, thus the term catfish comes into play. Apparently, the show is still going on, but man, oh man, I don't give a fuck. I only bring the show up because CATFISH came out in November of 2012, right around the same time as Glee's 4th season was airing. CATFISH quickly became a very popular show. I know it did, because when I was in college at the time, my friends and I tuned in for it every week. And Glee has been known to cover whatever current topics it can, as the show is a mirror of whatever events are going on as it airs. So naturally, that meant the show was gonna tap into the newly trending topic of being catfished online. Enter Glee's catfish plot. Beginning in episode 16, Ryder starts chatting with a girl online named Katie. Although he hasn't a clue who Katie is, he chats with her and gets very personal at times. He's shown messaging her about his ongoing issues and what to do about them. Everything is fine and good until it's clear that Ryder is being catfished the moment he asks to meet Katie in person. Over the next 6 episodes on and off, we see Ryder try to get answers and quickly catch on to the fact that he's been lied to. And what's worse is that he learns it was someone within the Glee Club. By the time we reach the finale, Ryder has reached his boiling point and refuses to not perform at regionals until he gets answers. Following a brief mislead, we learn a few scenes later that it was Unique all along. She was the one named Katie online and kept it hidden out of fear Ryder would never love her for who she is in person. Ryder ends up performing at regionals, but decides to quit the club once the competition is over. Now allow me to explain why this plot fucking sucks. Let's start from the top. I hate how this made both Unique and Ryder look bad in the end. No matter how good the actors were in these scenes, cause they were for the record, the material itself was still absolute garbage. This plot dragged on for the latter half of season 4 and was honestly one of the worst things to come out of the damn show. And that's saying a lot, cause Glee has plenty of god-awful things from within that are just straight up bad. This is definitely up there for me personally. What doesn't help is that despite how much I sympathize with Unique and understand where she's coming from, Ryder was justified in how he felt throughout this whole ordeal. Cause with context, Unique saw all the shit Ryder was going through and how paranoid he became over time. She let him go through all of that hell, and there's no telling how long this could have gone on for if there wasn't a reason to resolve this sooner. But even then, I get why Unique did what she did. She's a trans woman, a black trans woman no less, in goddamn Ohio in 2013. Homegirl spent all season being given grief for daring to be her true self. Trans folks aren't treated the best in the United States, but especially out there in the Midwest, be it back then or even now, sadly. And I can only imagine trans folks have a rough time when it comes to love, cause you then have to unpack if said person wants to date you for you, or is choosing to do so for ulterior motives. I'm not trans, so I won't get into it too much, But if you happen to be trans and watching this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on all of this, if you're down to speak on it. Back on topic, Unique's reasoning is understandable, and it's clear why she decided to use anonymity. She had no idea if Ryder would love her for who she was as a trans person, as a woman. I'd be scared too if I was in her position, especially if my love interest was a Midwestern white dude. Seriously, Glee, your crimes against the lack of black love will be addressed soon enough. You mark my fucking words. However, I don't like that this is how we got here. I don't like that Unique had to go through all of this simply because the writers thought it'd be a good idea to have a catfish plot. We could have gone down a much different path without the online bullshit. Unique could have instead, shared a kiss with Ryder shortly after their feud in episode 16. And then we spend the remainder of the season seeing the pair unpack what a relationship between them might look like. Instead, we got a plot that makes your sole trans rep, at the time, look bad in the worst ways. If you needed her to do something that was considered bad, but not full-on egregious, I refer back to that sudden kiss she could have given to Ryder, and have her realize that it was a mistake to do that. You can still have Unique go through her struggles to find love as a trans teen without resorting to painting her in such a bad light. It really bothers me that the writers opted to place their only trans character, at the time, in a dangerous situation. Yes, thankfully Ryder's a good guy and didn't resort to any kind of violence. That's good, but it's also not a good look when you've essentially made us sympathize with the guy and wouldn't blame him if he did hit her cause he spent 6 fucking episodes being paranoid. Glee tends to have all of the tools placed before them, each with their own respective potential, to help make a greater whole. But along the way, they use the damn tools wrong and then get surprised when the greater whole is half-baked and faulty. But it doesn't even matter. Why? Well, as it turns out, the plot got completely dropped in season 5. And I know this cause Ryder is back in the club. Dude said he'd be leaving the club post-regionals, and there he was in season 5. Back in the club, and he's even getting along with Unique. Are they cool? Do we get any follow-up on their plots together? Nope. Who cares? The writers clearly don't. Okay, real talk. We all knew Glee was coming back for season 5 and 6 at the time, and all of the season 4 noobs got bumped up as series regulars. So obviously, Ryder wasn't going anywhere. And obvious circumstances between seasons 4 and 5 aside, I don't think leaving this plot hanging was a good idea. It was very clearly the most important plot aside from the club performing at regionals. Why not continue it in season 5? Hard to say, but a lot of shit went wrong in season 5, and we'll chat about it another time. For now though, I think I'm done chatting about this damn finale. Let's wrap this up. Section 4. Conclusion. Just so we're clear, I know why season 4 actually ended the way it did. It's public knowledge. But for those of you who don't know, season 4 was the last time we would see Finn, as the actor who played him, Corey Monteith, tragically passed away before season 5 had begun filming. Prior to his passing, Corey was set to be in rehab and missed out on the last 3 episodes of the show. As a result, season 4's last 3 episodes felt very disjointed and felt like they were missing something. It was Finn who was missing. Throughout season 4, it was clear that Finn was being positioned to be the new leader of New Directions. He finally figured out his career path as a teacher while temporarily running the club in Mr. Shu's absence, and was likely expected to run the club for the rest of the series. The season likely would have ended with certain plots still in play, but I imagine things would have been a bit different had Finn still been part of the plans. I don't know if that would have changed my opinion on this finale, but I don't care. What I do care about is that season 4's final episodes were victims of unfortunate and unexpected circumstances, and All or Nothing ended up being the one that had to do its best to end things despite said circumstances. Even though I don't like this finale, I can still say that the music on its own was fantastic. And as always, everyone was acting their asses off and showcasing their exceptional talent. Despite the material everyone was working with, they all made it work nonetheless. I respect that. I don't think I would have appreciated these specific things as much regarding the episode had I not listened to Kevin and Jenna's podcast. For those who don't know, Kevin and Jenna, Artie and Tina in the show, have a weekly podcast called And That's What You Really Missed, where they talk about every episode of Glee, complete with behind-the-scenes info and interviews with the cast and crew. It's a fantastic listen, and I highly recommend it if you're a Gleek like me. The link to that podcast will be in the description. Their discussion of this episode helped me finally get this script done. I'm glad I did, because now I can put this specific discussion to rest. Glee's 4th season finale was such an underwhelming mess. I can't help but admit, though, that it still got me. I still got emotional upon watching it. Maybe it's because I rewatched it 2 days after a certain election and needed some comfort, or perhaps it's because the show is my go-to comfort series. But I honestly missed watching this show, and perhaps that's why I keep coming back to it. Because I know it'll bring me joy. I know this show will always be there for me, and that's why I gotta keep talking about it. Although the finale isn't my favorite, I'll give it credit for still being an entertaining mess. I'm just glad I don't have to speak on this episode ever again. And that's that. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic in the comments down below. I'd love it if you did. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, peace out. Bye!